All right. Good evening to everyone who is joining us from India. Good afternoon to all of the students dialing in today from Africa. And good morning to everyone who has joined us today from the West. We are live right now, and I can see tons of you all already who have started streaming in on YouTube. And for those, all of you who have joined in this call, can you let me know which city are you dialing in from? If you can put it up on the chat, which city are you dialing in from? We have Harsh, who has joined us from Varanasi. We have people from Hyderabad, Maharashtra, Bhopal, Delhi, Ahmedabad, Mumbai, from Kathmandu, Nepal, many from the national capital, Delhi, Peshawar from Pakistan, Srinagar, India, Visakhapatnam, across the lengths and breadths of India, as well as from different other countries. We have students who have dialed in this call today. That's quite wonderful to see. All right, second. Yes. I am Moin Naik and I am representing Seed Global Education today. We are a higher education firm based out in the United Kingdom, having our offices in London, Mumbai, as well as in Accra and Ghana. And we help high potential students like all of you who have joined this call today with us in making their dream of studying either an MBA, a business master's, or a STEM master's in top global universities, a dream, a reality. And today, for the next 1 hour, we would be discussing about artificial intelligence in everyday life, from chatbots to autonomous vehicles. And this session today, it's brought to you by one of the leading universities in the United States. It's St. John's University, Peter J. Tobin College of Business, located in the vibrant New York metropolitan area in the vicinity of places like Wall Street, Times Square. St. John's University's Peter J. Tobin College of Business stands at the forefront of business education, consistently cultivating future global leaders. Through its strong industry partnerships, the school fosters an environment of innovation and entrepreneurial spirit. The institution empowers students to connect with leading global corporations, preparing them to excel in diverse professional areas. The MBA program of St. John's University was ranked as the 33rd best online MBA by US News and World Report in 2023. Notable alumni have secured positions at renowned firms, including Amazon, Deloitte, EY, JP Morgan and Chase, KPMG, and Prince Water Coopers, among others. St. John's University is built on a mission of academic excellence, social justice, and service, drawing inspiration from its Vincenton heritage. In this session today, we would be exploring how artificial intelligence is entering our daily life across many industries, from healthcare to finance to transportation to customer service. Today, we would be taking each and every one of you who have joined today on a journey to envision your future, to understand the impact that artificial intelligence can have in the world and the different career opportunities associated with it. Along with me, I have two of the noted dignitaries from St. John's University who have joined us today. First of all, let me introduce Professor Krashetti, who is a Senior Associate Director, Analytics and Insights, Medical Affairs, and Adjunct Full Professor at St. John's University. Professor Krashetti is an experienced professional specializing in data science, artificial intelligence, and digital health innovation within the pharmaceutical industry. As a Senior Associate Director of Analytics and Insights in Medical Affairs at Boehringer Ingelheim, he leads initiatives that integrate data analytics and artificial intelligence to enhance clinical development and medical affairs. Along with Professor Crescetti, we also have with us Ms. Amber, who is the Director of Graduate Admissions at St. John's University, Peter J. Tobin College of Business. Amber is an experienced higher education professional with a strong background in graduate enrollment management and recruitment. She currently serves as the Director of Graduate Admissions at St. John's, a role she has held since November 2018. Thank you so much, Professor Crescetti and Amber, for joining us with for this session today.
Oh, thank you
Before
for having us.
Before we begin, for everyone who has joined this call today, I can see 150 of you all who are on this meeting today, right now. I would be launching a quick poll going forward, and here is the poll. Which industry do you think finds most exciting in terms of its implementation of artificial intelligence? According to you, is it manufacturing? Is it healthcare, retail, education, agriculture, or automotive industries? I would be waiting for the next 15 seconds before we close on this poll. Last 10 seconds. Last 5 seconds for who haven't polled yet. All right. So here are the results. So many of you all think in the industries of healthcare and education, you find the implementation of artificial intelligence as the most exciting thing ever. So to proceed ahead with our session today, I would like to invite Professor Krashati to take forward the session.
Well, once again, thank you so much. So let me start sharing my screen and let me know. Let me know if you see my screen.
We can see it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining me today in this conversation about AI. And I wanted to make this one really as a conversation, and I want to engage with you in different topics that involves AI. Actually, I agree with all the answer that you provided in the poll. Healthcare, definitely a hot topic for AI. Manufacturing, probably we are already there, but is evolving, automobile, and so forth. And I will not have the pretense to teach you anything today, but I really want to share with you, things about this technology, and that, to be honest, I was not planning to see to this level in my lifetime. And I will make this point throughout the presentation. So I'm assuming that all of you have a kind of understanding of what AI is. And instead, I really want to focus on one aspect of AI. And I see here, and the definition I'm going to use here is AI as a system that is capable to really process an unimaginable amount of information, understands human behavior better than yourself, probably, and can right now autonomously make decisions based of what understand. So it's really this ability of AI to make these autonomous decisions that it's really making the turning point of AI, and why this might be the very point of an increasing pace toward, probably you heard this term of singularity of AI, which AI actually surpasses the ability of human to process information. So I will divide this presentation in 3 points. The first one is that I will make a claim, and I'm going to support the claim that AI is already here. And this should be quite easy and probably trivial for many of you. The one of you that are following the many news on AI these days. And then I wanted to move toward more complex examples that will illustrate the potential true power of AI, which then will bring me to the future scenarios and the reason why you should really pay attention to this evolution of AI. So that's how I'm gonna divide this presentation. So I'm saying probably the obvious things right now, and I'm going to state that AI is already here. And probably you are using every day when you interact with your smartphone. You have probably AI assistants, Siri, Alexas, or Bixby, depending on which smartphone version you have. You use navigators, maybe you use translators. And by the way, when I was doing my doctoral study, there was a student that was studying this problem of creating a universal translator, and the advisor at that time, we talk about beginning of 2000, they would say, this is an impossible thing, don't waste your time. This is just to tell you how far we went these days, because you can just download an application now, I can translate from any language to any other language. Then you have probably the most use of AI that you are familiar with. And for example, when you browse your entertainment application, I don't know around the world, but here in the United States, we have the Netflix, the Spotify, the Hulu, and so forth. And it's not always clear what happens behind the scenes, but AI makes those recommendations for you without you even noticing. And this might seems an okay functionality, an innocuous functionality, but factors like advertising, content engagement maximizations are really the main drivers for that particular suggestion. And you might never watch, for example, a documentary on planet Earth that not only might be interest for you, but it's also good for developing your own sense of what's happening in the world. Then we have, if actually limiting your choices on entertainment applications, doesn't have really bad consequences. But when you move to social media, and we are talking now about content curation and recommendation on those platforms, that is a totally different story. And, that's actually a case for me when, how many times you search for a product, let's say a pair of shoes, let's make it sport shoes, I don't know, something like that. And suddenly your Facebook feed starts to prompt you shoe advertising. Even though you have browsed this information on totally different sites, somehow the social platform becomes aware of your intention, start to prompt you those advertising about shoes. The worst thing is when you already bought something, all of a sudden you go to this platform and they provide you a better price. It's always after you bought the shoes in my case. This really drives me nuts. And then we have, of course, the case you're using the poll, right? Where we have application of AI in healthcare. And here we use really powerful AI systems that are used to diagnose conditions. Analysis of medical imaging is the classic example. Even these days, drug development. So there is this company called In Silico Medicine, for example, that is providing for the first time in the world, the first drug that is being completely developed by AI. It's a drug for a condition called pulmonary fibrosis. It's in phase 2 clinical trials. Just to give you an idea, when it moves to clinical phase 3 trials, that means it passed all these toxicology tests, is effective, and it will be tested on humans. So it's an amazing feat. Nobody knows how it goes, but definitely is a promising area, and one area where a lot of pharmaceutical companies are investing. So there are definitely more examples. You also mentioned autonomous vehicle, from actually autonomous cars to flying taxis. You might be aware that, for example, I think it was Saudi Arabia, where they are testing actually flying taxis, completely autonomous. And I really enjoyed this. For example, in my car, I have a Hyundai Ioniq 5 that has this adaptive cruise control that controls, you stand automatically. I don't have to do anything. It stays on the line, it curves, keep the distance with the vehicle in front of me. It's not completely autonomous because it wants you to hold the steering wheel all the time, but it's really helpful. I really love it because when I have late classes at university, I have to drive several miles to get back home very late at night. I'm tired, and I cannot tell you how many times actually help me to avoid accidents. So I really love that. So then we have the adoption of AI in financial services that not only monitors transactions for anomalies, fraud detections, emerging trends, but also acts as a, automatic portfolio manager that automatically rebalance portfolio if you are a customers. It makes those autonomous decisions in buy and selling products. So the point I want to make here is that we are already getting used to interaction with machines and even robots. For example, I put over here the image of the robot that I saw in Seoul, South Korea. And actually, there are two robots, one that brings your luggage to the gate, and the other one that you see over here gives you information on which gate you need to go to take your flight. You might even ask the robot to bring you there because you might not be familiar with the layout of the airport. So, and these trends will always increase. Now, in the poll, you mentioned driverless cars. Automobile actually was not really reference to driverless car, but probably that's what you had in mind. And probably when I mention driverless car, everybody thinks about Tesla because it was probably the first that started this movement. But in San Francisco, it's a picture you see over here. Waymo is this company that already has a fleet of driverless taxis that you can call from your smartphone and are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And not only that, but they are partnering with organizations to provide transportation for people with disability, for example, epilepsy, LGBTQ communities, and they're expanding to Phoenix and Los Angeles, and they're even planning to expand in, I think, Austin, Texas. So this is a great example on how technology can disrupt even new companies, because, for example, Uber and Lyft are relatively new companies, and this technology, unless they will start adopting this technology, they will be totally disrupted. And this is already happening today. So if you go to San Francisco, you can take these taxis. Now, another area that it's really developing quite fast are those realistic avatars. They're already changing the way we interact with automated system. So the classic example of this, which is always the first adapting area, is customer service platforms, right? But before you were, or even now, there's a lot of systems that have those fixed choices, but they're being replaced with these conversational agents that are really capable of being more interactive and able to solve many more problems with you. So this is an example of what you see over here of a tutor that we are creating at St. John's University with one of our research, and is completely autonomous and able to converse via voice. And he uses an agentic approach to AI, which is the next frontier. I will make a comment a little bit later here. But these agents can really interact with even with systems at a deeper level. For example, as tasks can be initiated depending on the context of the conversation. For example, I don't know, they might send you an invite to your email box. And those systems are really more powerful than systems like Alexa or your system that you have in your phone, in which the conversation is mainly scripted and are constrained within well-established boundaries. So those agents can even join Zoom meetings as if they were expert and participate in a productive way. So the next frontier, for example, is to have those agents joining meeting, taking notes, and basically provide you with a summary. That's exactly what we are working already at St. John's, for example. So I can continue on and provide you with many more examples, but I think I was able to prove my first point, right? AI is already here, and maybe in ways that even surprise you. And the point also I want to make is this: technology is evolving so fast, and the pace of change is only accelerating. So this creates both opportunities and worries, and really for a good reason. Okay, so if AI is already here, what is next? So in this section, this is the second section, I want to provide you with a view of what can you expect within the next 5 years, the short term. So once again, I want to emphasize the fact that I was not expecting to witness any of this in my lifetime. This should be really a testimony of how fast this technology is evolving, and the reason behind the concern that we are not ready to deal with this technology. So I capture my worries and hopes in this image that I created with Midjourney, combining both my excitement for this enormous opportunity, also my worries that we might use this technology in really a self-destructing way, which it seems we are very good at. So really a wish I have for you is to at least to get familiar with this technology, to know how to deal with it. So let's take a look here. So the current or previous generation of AI had many constraints, right? And I'm talking about the AI, what we used to call AI in the 80s and 90s. So this kind of AI solved a specific problem and usually was based on many rules. And more importantly, did not make autonomous decisions. This is an important point. So if you have to take one takeaway from this presentation is this: AI today, in the future, will make autonomous decisions, and it is something we have to pay attention to. And back in the days, the power was mainly based on processing speed, right? So in this, I put over here an example of IBM Deep Blue, which was the first breakthrough in artificial intelligence, and where in 1997, I think, was able to beat the world chess champion Garry Kasparov, and it was news back in the days. So how it worked is that the system received a position of the chess pieces from the board and quickly was able to go through millions of rules that were programmed into the system. And with these rules, will generate the next move. There was a famous philosopher, Hubert Diffus, that because of this breakthrough really changed his position when this happened, and say that AI systems that were based on rule back in the days with algorithm like Deep Blue, he said that, I cannot really consider those systems true intelligence in the human sense. And this was a very important statement from him because was suggesting that true intelligence involved more than just following rules. Those rule-following systems were called expert systems and were pretty much the standards back in that days. So rule-based systems like Deep Blue are fundamentally different from modern AI. And I want to go back to the driverless taxi in San Francisco, because if you think about it, this AI system has to make thousands of autonomous decisions every single minute, right? Not only to bring in a safe way passenger to their destinations, but also has to predict and respond to behaviors of pedestrians, cyclists, and other road users, who all of them can really act unpredictably. This is such a fit and hard problem to solve. Not only that, but in addition to these, let's call this, what if scenarios, these AI systems also need to take ethical decisions. And those ethical decisions are called the trolley problem. And I can phrase them in the following way. So what to do when the only options are two undesirable scenarios? For example, has to make unethical decisions of balancing between the lives of passengers and pedestrians. So in this way, it's easy to understand that rule-based system will never work in this case. So for example, if it can avoid an accident, let's say, out of two possible scenarios that will always cause harms, one is hitting a pedestrians, the other one would to possibly harm the passenger, what do you do? And those are similar issues that we face as drivers normally in a car, right? So those systems, those decisions cannot be made by a rule base. So it's a system as decisions that need to be autonomous. There are many, many philosophers, scientists, economists, and more actually they are pointing to this. They're pointing to this fundamental shift in how power societies, humanity will function in the future. And they worry that despite this undeniable potential of AI, we really need to understand this technology to ensure that AI delivers the benefit to society as a whole. So this ability of AI to make super fast intelligence and autonomous decisions can be a problem if we do not provide clear directives to this AI, because AI systems think in a way that are totally different and are impossible to comprehend by humans, right? They see patterns that we might not even see. And so in many ways, it's impossible to fully predict their behaviors. And putting this power on those systems can be quite a challenge. And I'm going to give you an example. This is a trading system. So in March, I think it was 6 in 2020, the US stock market experienced an incredible fast, a really unprecedented drop. And just to give you an idea, in few minutes, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is one of the most important index in the New York Stock Exchange, plunged nearly 1,000 points. At that time was about 10% of its value. That's huge. And the funny thing is, actually it was not that funny, is that this was not caused by any major world event. There was nothing major happening in the world back in the days. There was no financial crisis or any specific news that justified that drop, but it was caused by a very complex interaction of trading algorithms, that some of them were autonomous even at that time, that started to execute massive trades at high speed according to their directives of maximizing profits and using market signals. So at one point, there was this substantial sell order that was triggered by one of those algorithms, and then all the other algorithms followed, creating this self-reinforcing loop that led to the market crash. So as a result, the market value of many stocks really got distorted by this crazy and irrational frenzy, which also triggered, by the way, panic among human traders that also started to sell the stock. Just to give you an idea, there was the stock price of this company called Procter & Gamble, which is one of the largest company for personal care and consumer health manufacturers. Probably many of you might even know this, that for a brief period of time fell from $60 to few pennies, which basically nil his value on the stock market. I mean, this is crazy. So we learned from this event. So we were able to self-correct ourselves so that we put regulation and safeguards in place. But, you know, that's to tell you that if something can go wrong, it can go wrong very quickly, that it's hard to react. And if we rely more and more on this technology, we really have to make sure that it works the way it works. So I really recommend you, another takeaway from this presentation is that I really want you to familiarize yourself with the work of these scholars in these slides and develop a good sense of the true potential of autonomous AI. So I'm quite confident that the next few years will focus on the development and refinement of AI agents. This because allows AI to carry out much higher cognitive tasks that can do today autonomously. So there are few technologies. So this is what I see in the short terms. So there are a few technologies that are already surfacing in this area. Autonomous personal assistants, I made the comment before, that will be capable to integrate into IT systems, performing broader range of tasks, scheduling, managing personal information, communicating with appliances, for example, handling complex conversations. For the one of you in the poll, put, for example, healthcare, you can expect that in the very near future, when you check in at your doctor office, you will interface with these autonomous personal assistants. The second one is the integration of large language models like ChatGPT into robotics that together will increase. Now, one of the things happening these days with the robotics is their increased ability to become more dexterous, meaning that able to manipulate objects. I wouldn't say at the same level of humans, but they're getting closer. So this means that they can adapt to changing environments. They're going to be able to handle complex, non-repetitive tasks, like, for example, different from the robots that are currently in manufacturing, for example, because those are robots that are really specialized on specific tasks. And probably one of the first use cases you will see is this in the elderly care, right? When you have robot that will assist with personal care, mobility, emotional support for the elders. So I definitely see this happening in the near future. On this one, in the use of AI in creative fields, probably we are somewhat there, but the next barrier that will be broken is the use of AI in creative fields like design, music, and art. So AI is already being used in these areas, but in the next few years, creative AI models will likely expand their abilities beyond creating simple or derivative works. So I think those systems will learn complex creativity processes, such as what is called the style blending, narrative development, personalized content generations. And this really could be used to write script, generate characters, even produce entire movies based on AI-generated script. Director preferences is going to come up with his own character, environmental data, and so forth. I mean, OpenAI just released Sora. Even though it can create up to 20 seconds of video, you could see the direction of this. There was an example of a producer that stopped actually the build of an entire studio in the, I think it was Atlanta area. It was an $800 million project simply because he started to see the ability of AI. So he completely stopped that project, stopped that investment, and didn't build that studio because he thinks that in a few years he can do everything with AI. Then obviously there is more and more happening in the transportation systems, not just taxis, driverless car, but probably you already saw for example, Mercedes-Benz, those autonomous delivery trucks. Probably Amazon will continue this drone delivery program. It started to pilot this in more and more cities in the United States. So transportation will be definitely affected by AI. And this will result in the reducing need of human driver, especially in the last mile delivery. And in addition to this, for example, there is a pilot for autonomous ships that can navigate international water by themselves, and also drones that could also be used to deliver packages or emergency goods in remote or hard to reach area. And of course, the next, I mean, I didn't mention here, but the next area, of course, is healthcare. And there are many efforts and funds that are going into this growing area of interest. And the timing, I think, is a little bit longer just because it's an area with high regulations. So, for example, there will be much more scrutiny to launch autonomous healthcare, right? You're going to have a system that will detect or prescribe you treatments, but probably you will be a little bit more hesitant to receive a treatment for AI. You still want to talk with your own doctor. So probably in healthcare will take a little bit more time. So in terms of you as students or even people that wants to somehow be prepared, what can you do? So as we move to general AI, that's the area that we call when AI can solve more complex problems. The question is, all of us is, what can I do? And I put this quote for Professor Lakhani because I think he said perfectly. And I think for the short term is that the idea is that while AI will not replace humans in the short terms, humans knowing AI will definitely replace humans that don't know AI. So the first thing you can do is really to learn AI. So what does it mean? Well, ideally, you are a technical person and you might want to become proficient in deep learning, the architectures behind large language models, and then everybody really should learn how to use large language models like ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude, whatever it is, because you really need to have an understanding of what does it mean to interact with those systems. So, and then once you feel comfortable in using those tools, I really recommend you to start adopting them at your job. So companies these days are more and more open to use these tools, and they are putting policies on how to use AI in the workplace. So make sure you follow those specific guidelines, but nevertheless, use them as an assistant to increase your productivity. And this will tell you the best use you have for AI in your particular case. So start using it. Then I would say the exercise of learning AI is also a good exercise to understand your level of exposures to AI disruptions. So if you feel, for example, as you use AI, that it can really perform most of your job, that is a very good indication that your role at your company probably is a risk if the company adoption of AI will increase in the future. Now, this really doesn't mean that that will happen, but it could. And if this is the case, in general, you can focus on the creativity aspect and problem-solving task that requires more human ability, because tasks like human insight and innovation cannot be easily automated by those systems yet, right? So develop those emotional intelligence skills like communications, empathy, leadership roles, because those are roles that are uniquely human. And finally, when you become familiar with AI, take also note of the challenges and limitation of this technology. So don't be passive in accepting AI as an inevitability, but be ready to have your own options and how to ensure responsible AI through, for example, transparent algorithm, national and international regulation, strong collaborations between industry governments, because this will allow you to really live with AI, if there is a term I want to use. Okay, so this is in the short term, but how does the longer term you can expect for AI? So I would say here that the way we interact with technology will be drastically different in the future. So there is this field that is emerging called spatial computing that really allows users to interact with data and the environment in new ways. So for example, not just enhancing a visual experience via, I don't know, probably you're familiar with augmented reality, virtual reality, but also processing spatial data coming from sensors like the LiDAR radar, for example, that is mounting on this quad robot that we have at St. John's, that is able to processing and exchange messages with the environment outside. So you might, for example, think when you're driving your car will start communicating with our car in the road to find better way of sharing space. Eventually, you don't need to drive anymore, and I'm waiting for that time to happen. So there will be a more connection between sensory data, you, and the way we interact with the systems. Then probably in a decade or so, agents would allow AI to integrate in many processes. So because right now we are really focused on large language model, and this kind of system focuses mainly on question answering and augmented human knowledge. But AI agents, which is what I call those agentic systems, are really capable of autonomous execution of discrete but very complex cognitive tasks. So we will probably see a shift from these massive general purpose models to really specialized smaller model that are tailored to specific domains. And as AI evolves, those agentic systems will basically proliferate and will enable machines not just to assist you, but to take autonomous actions. So tasks that were once time-consuming, for example, I don't know, if you're working at financial institutions, you need to generate financial reports, maybe you need to resolve customer inquiries, manage workflow. All of this will really become autonomous, and you will have those assistants that work with you, and eventually will be the agent that will take care completely of those tasks. So those agents, the power of those agents is that they will talk with other agents more efficiently than humans, and they will form what is called, for example, the philosopher Noah Harari, Yudav, called these machine network, information networks. So they will really revolutionize the way we do our jobs. So leaders in companies really will face, in this case, new challenges because, for example, there are also risks. Cybersecurity risk will increase because you might see those autonomous cybersecurity attacks coming from everywhere in the world. Is already happening today. Energy consumption concerns. The more AI we use, the more energy we need. And the management of those autonomous systems, which is not trivial. So by, I would say, 2035, a future might be completely different from where we see today. Because we're going to have an agent for this, an agent for that, and those agents will really redefine those human-machine collaboration and will be the start of a fundamental shift from augmentation to execution-focused AI. So a few weeks ago, I had a delegation of the government from India visiting our university. And part of this delegation was the defense minister. And I provided this presentation on the use AI in warfare and defense. So I thought I will give you also this. I just took 3 slides from that presentations, but there are use cases in which AI will also change the warfare and security in any country. So in this case, for example, border security will be transformed by the use of drones and surveillance systems. Cybersecurity will completely be different because they will be able to detect and counteract cyber attacks. So cybersecurity will be a field that is very important and will grow to the future. In St. John's, we have an entire program dedicated to cybersecurity. So that's something that you really want to pay attention to. And then, of course, how AI will also change the warfare in case of defense. So I will not pay much attention to this one, but this is what I wanted to share with you just to give you an idea. Once again, I wanted to just create more questions than give you answers, and I'm open to questions. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Professor Crashetti, for such a wonderful presentation. I'm sure students got to learn a great deal about artificial intelligence across the presentation. Professor, there have been a lot of questions which have come up from the students. Quickly starting with one of them, Mishti is asking us if you can tell us about the risks involved in using artificial intelligence in the financial industry with regards to privacy and security.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say just financial, but in general. So let's take this question in general. The main question is that as this AI becomes more and more powerful and will go toward taking autonomous decisions, those decisions will really need to be guardrailed by the directives. I'm going to give you an example. If you give an algorithm the directive to maximize profit, for example, and there are many thought experiments on this, it might actually start to act unethically, because it might become an agent that will take advantage of the volatility of the market. It might, as happens in 2020, tank the market because they will make, for example, a stock value like companies like Procter & Gamble so cheap in the short terms that in that brief moment that it might go in from $60 to a few pennies, it might send a buy signal that it will pretty much buy all the stocks available to Procter & Gamble to maximize this profit. Now, that's not permitted currently in the market. And because we don't know if those systems will behave in that way, these are dangerous. And this is just an example of financial. So they might actually tank markets, distort the market. I mentioned before the warfare. What happens if the directive of a weapons is to achieve a certain objectives? And we don't know what kind of decisions those systems. So these autonomous, it's a risk that we need to take in consideration because we don't know today how to deal with systems. That's how we need to guardrail. And the important things is that currently is for the first time in history, those systems being developed by private companies rather than coming out from universities. So there need to be check and balances to self-correct those mistakes. And the question is, who's going to do that if we don't have access to those technology? So it's important for you to learn.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Professor Crescetti. Professor, there has been a question regarding hurdles which AI faces regarding self-driving cars. Adding on to this particular question, as opposed to the self-drive cars which are manufactured by companies like Tesla and are working very good in the United States, in many developing countries, there are problems related to upgrading infrastructure, which is going on, huge population. How do you think a model which is a perfect fit for this use case be created? And how can that process be achieved?
So infrastructure is important because it creates constraints in the model, meaning that a constrained model can be trained faster than another model. So for example, if you have roads that look more or less the same, it's easier for a model to learn and deal with the situations in that case. When you don't have, let's say, the same infrastructure everywhere, the only options that you have is to have simply more data. To have this model to be able to handle those extra situations. Now, that's not impossible, but if you had lack of infrastructure with lack of computing power to develop those models, then it's definitely more challenges, right? Because what Tesla did with many, many years, they have people just driving around and capture these video feeds that they use to train their model. So same model can be done, the same procedure can be done in those places. The only difference is that because it's not constrained systems, you definitely need to have more and more data. So not impossible, but definitely harder.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Professor Crescetti. Professor, many of the students who have joined us today are currently either graduates or are studying their final year of undergrad. Many of the students are asking us what is the starting point for them if they are to get started with a career in artificial intelligence. Where do they get started? Which applications should they master? They hear large terms like deep learning, machine learning, reinforcement learning, NLP, etc. But what is the starting point for all the folks who have joined us today?
Yeah, so I would say, and I kind of mentioned in my presentation, start with definitely deep learning. So if I have to go technical, start with deep learning. What does it mean, deep learning? Well, understand what the deep learning technology is. With deep learning simply means neural networks with many hidden layers. Move toward vision, so deep learning visions, convolutional neural network, and so forth. Sequential model, like RNNs and so forth, because they will give you a very strong foundations. And in fact, to the very point with St. John's, for example, I'm leading this initiative where all the instructor will be trained in certified by NVIDIA as well. So parallel computing, for example, GPUs oriented training techniques for neural networks. And that's the foundations. Then you need to move toward language models for sure. How language model are trained, how you can interact. I would say sensor data as well. That's those spatial computing area. Those are kind of specialization. So these core of deep neural networks. And then if you want to go into conversational AI, then go toward these natural language processes. Cybersecurity, it's another specializations, or robotics and automation. So those are the in general the path that you can take.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Professor. Professor, I've got an interesting question in the chat. As recently, Google announced that they have released a quantum chip which can process problems which would take eons of years, and they're processing it via the quantum chip in 5 minutes per se. If you can throw some light as to how the integration of quantum computing and artificial intelligence together can solve the problem of computational power per se. I know there have been some research going on, but if you can help us with some light on it.
Yeah, so the current research in first of all, it's happening quite fast, I would say, because we are seeing quantum computing start to appear in reasonable environments, meaning that quantum computing need to work in very cold environment. There was a drawback on was a hard point to solve, right? But now we are seeing more and more quantum computing offered in easier to generate environments. Number one. Number two, the current application of quantum computing is being in cryptography. So the news that you see is more breaking longer encrypting codes. It definitely there's been a way, simply because those are really hard problem to solve, right? So if a quantum computing can solve the problem, then can also solve the other easier problems. So I see quantum computing coming, artificial intelligence, not yet, simply because quantum computing has also the difficulty of programming. You cannot use the usual programmers. I'm not aware of any Python compile or interpreter for quantum computing. So until this happens, I would say the use of quantum computing will be relegated in a specific area of research. But I don't see why it shouldn't come in the near future. But by near future, I mean probably at least a decade to see real application.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Professor. One last question, Professor, which has come to me across is, if AI's thinking is beyond human thinking, can the synergy of AI and human creativity offer a pathway to make AI processes more transparent? On these lines, if you can throw some light on this.
Yeah, it's hard because AI think different than humans. So for example, if you have a large data set, and we see patterns, a machine can not only see the patterns that we see, but even other patterns that we simply don't see. And this has been proven many times over, for example, in which if you have this adversarial conversation between AI systems, they were even able to generate new language that is perfectly tuned for their quick communications and breadth of communications that we are not even able to understand. So that points to a point where we really unable to understand how AI will make the decisions. Now, there's been a lot of research try to understand this. For example, there was a research I think it was in Sweden, where they really tried to answer these questions. Does AI really create new AI by generative AI create new novelty, new knowledge, or is simply reshuffle what already knows? So at this point, it seems that we are in the second bucket. So it's reshuffling, it's really not creating nothing new, but that doesn't mean it will stay that way. We still don't know how this kind of pseudo novelty is created, but that opens up the question of how do we really create transparent systems that we can really understand to predict their behavior? That's a really hard question, and we don't know how to answer that.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Professor Crocetti. I hope all the students have benefited a lot from your expertise today. And thank you so much for spending your Wednesday morning with us.
Nice. Thank you for having me here. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Professor.
Bye.
All right. Before we begin with our next segment, I have a quick poll for everyone present over here with us. I would be launching that in a minute. So if you can tell us right now, everyone who is on this meeting today, which stage are you in your study abroad journey? Are you currently understanding your options? Which universities are you looking forward to? Which programs are you looking forward to pursue? Are you in the process of shortlisting the best universities, or are you in the process of applying to those programs? We would be waiting for another 10 seconds. All right. So here are the answers which we have received. Many of you all who have joined us today are trying to understand your options at the moment. So now we would like to proceed ahead with the second segment. But before I invite Ms. Amber, we had a quick announcement for each and every one of you all who have joined today. So St. John's University, Peter J. Tobin College of Business is providing exclusive scholarships for 3 students worth up to 100% of your tuition fees. That's just amazing. As the saying goes, Christmas is coming early this time. So yeah, for all the students, if you are looking forward to studying a program at St. John's University, Peter J. Tobin College of Business, you can apply for scholarships. The round 3 deadline for applying for the scholarships is 15th of January. So you can go ahead and proceed with the registration. I would be sharing the details, the application link for the scholarship in the chat. With this, I would now like to hand over to Amber for taking ahead the session.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can you please let me know if you can see that?
Yes, it's visible, Amber.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Thank you. Well, welcome everybody. I will be very quick. I think Professor Crocetti gave us a lot of information on AI, and since you all are in the process of starting to explore your options, I thought I would give you just a little bit more information about St. John's and the 65 plus graduate programs that we offer at the university. So for those of you who have not maybe heard of St. John's University, we are located in New York City. We have 2 main campuses within the heart of New York City, one which is on the Queens campus. That is our big main campus that is what you see in movies of a typical US college. It's the big broad campus that takes up a full 100+ acres, has residence halls and all different classrooms and buildings. And then our Manhattan campus, the picture is actually behind me as well, is a 1-story building in downtown Manhattan that is very close to NYU and Cooper Union. Both campuses are equally available to you as graduate students. We offer different courses there. We also have courses available online. So oftentimes, especially lately, there have been some hiccups with earning your visas, or it's a little bit longer than you'd like. Many of our programs also offer online courses. So students will sometimes start their programs online from home while they're awaiting their visa, and then move to join us on campus after their first semester or whenever it works out. So that's always an option to keep in the back of your mind as well. Just some quick thoughts about us as a university. We are a medium to large size university for the United States parameters. We have a little over 3,200 currently enrolled graduate students and a little over 16,000 enrolled undergraduate students. But that being said, our student to faculty ratio is 16:1. So when you are in the classroom, you're going to know your professors, they're going to know you, you're going to know the students who are in your classes as well. It's a very tight-knit environment. Most of our classes have a max of about 30 students. And then as you get further along in the program, you'll have classes that go down to about 10, 12, even 7 students as well. We also have over 180 student organizations on campus. We have 17 Division Big East sports teams. We're very well known for our basketball team. So for anybody who's had the experience of visiting New York or has seen the New York Knicks play, our basketball team actually plays at Madison Square Garden as well, which is really exciting. So we get to play where the Knicks play, and our games are so much fun and exciting. We also have 44 US states and 119 countries represented. So we have a very diverse community, which is extremely important to us. Another big tenet just to be aware of is that we have over 198,000 living alumni. They are very involved in not only coming back to campus, participating with prospective students, but also in hiring and recruiting our students because they know the value of a St. John's education. So when we have career fairs and similar things, it's often alumni that we see here who are looking to hire fellow St. John's students. Okay. One option I just want to point out as well that makes us a little bit different than a lot of other graduate schools is that we have a lot of international opportunities for our graduate students, which is very unique. Overall, about 2% of graduate students have some sort of study abroad experience, and even an international student, you have the ability to participate in some of our study abroad opportunities. So wanted to mention that quickly because that is a way to certainly differentiate yourself from other applicants, and then once you graduate, to differentiate yourself from other folks applying to similar jobs. To quickly go over our application checklist, these are the items that we require in order to receive an admissions decision, and I'm going to go over all of our programs in just a moment. We require the online application and application fee. For everyone who is here today and attended the webinar, we are going to give you an application fee waiver. That should be automatic, so once you apply, because you have come from SEED, we will waive the application fee. If you don't see that waiver, please let me know when you apply, and we will make sure that that is applied to your account. We also require transcripts from all the institutions that you've attended since secondary or high school, a essay, which is basically describing your educational history and why you're looking to pursue a graduate degree. Letters of recommendation, so this can vary from 1 to 3 depending upon which degree that you're applying for. Generally, we're looking for an academic or a professional reference to do your letter. Some programs will specifically request a letter about research if, say, you're applying to the clinical psych program, or talking about your medical background if you're applying to the physician assistant program. But in most cases, it can be any academic or professional resource who doesn't know you on a personal level, so just not a friend or family member. We often require a resume, and then some programs require GRE or GMAT, but they are waived for the vast majority of our programs. For international students, like most of you on the call, we do require a course-by-course foreign credit evaluation. We are in the process of trying to work out a way that we can offer this to you in-house, so please stay tuned for an announcement about that. And then we do require the TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo, or Pearson exam. So if you have not yet taken that exam, we would be happy to offer you a Duolingo fee waiver as well, as long as your application is complete other than that. So we're hoping to help with the process as much as possible. In terms of career development, every graduate student who comes into the program is paired with a career advisor, and they help you through all steps of the process. So building your resume, working on interview skills, gaining an internship and job placement, doing mock interviews, and analyzing market trends. And they have so many resources on their website. So it's not just the brick and mortar in-person internships that you're used to. They also have, say, internships that you can apply to be a part of a project that's virtual online, and it can be anywhere from 5 to 40 hours that you can add to your resume and say, hey, I worked with JP Morgan for 40 hours on this project, and it's all virtual, and you're able to add that to your resume without impacting your course study history or being able to, impact your study schedule at all. And that opens up the door also for internship opportunities worldwide. We also have a specific software within our career portal that matches our international students with our alum who are working worldwide. So if a lot of you are from India, if you're looking to connect with alumni who are working back in India to see what fields they're working in, they've made themselves available to our prospective students to chat more about that opportunity. Just a few deadlines to be aware of. If you're interested in any of the programs which are on the right-hand side, please be aware that we do have some application deadlines, mostly for our PhD, PA, PsyD, and doctoral level programs. The remaining programs, we do recommend that you apply by April 1st if you're looking for a fall 25 start. Scholarships. I know that scholarships are a huge question all the time, so I am happy to let everybody know that we do have extensive graduate scholarships. We consider every admitted student for academic and merit scholarships at the time of admission. We also have endowed and external scholarships. We will send more information on that you can be eligible for in addition to the merit or work experience scholarships. We also have specific scholarships for different departments, different programs. So depending upon which program you're applying to, oftentimes they have specific awards that you may be eligible for. And then we also have assistantships and fellowships, which are basically the opportunity for you to receive a full tuition waiver in exchange for working with faculty or an office on campus. And you also receive a stipend for that. As you can imagine, those are very competitive positions, but generally, if you have a very high either test score or GPA and some work experience, you can be considered for those by your academic department. If you are looking for scholarships and or assistantships to help fund your education, we definitely recommend that you apply as soon as possible. So using that round 1 deadline is generally your best bet in order to get the best option of getting a GA position or a scholarship. Okay, and then quickly, I'm just going to go over some of our graduate programs. So I know a lot of you are in the first step of your application process. What I always tell students is the first thing to do is try and narrow down what field you want to study. And of course, if that's a conversation you want to have with myself, one of my counselors, any other representative from another school, we're here to help you walk through that process. And oftentimes that conversation looks like a student coming to us and saying, hi, I have my bachelor's degree in engineering and now I want to make a career pivot and go into analytics. What would be the best degree to help me, fit that goal? And that's our job, is to help you figure out what degree is the best fit for your educational and also your career goals. So as I mentioned, we have over 65 graduate programs represented by the 5 colleges listed here. Within the College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences, PA is a big program, as well as Biological Pharmaceutical Biotechnology and our PhD in Pharmaceutical Sciences. I can make these slides available to see if you'd like, but I don't want to go through every single program. So in relation to the presentation that we saw today, we also have cyber information security, data science. We also have a business analytics degree within the College of Professional Studies. This is within our College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. So we kind of call these theology majors: history, theology, psychology, sociology, speech pathology, criminology and justice is very popular, as is our government and politics. Applied math, computing, and machine learning is also very popular. And philosophy, politics, and economics, we're the only school in the US with that degree. So that's something I like to highlight as well. More degrees here. These are more of the MS offerings, and then some of the advanced certificates. Library and information science and neuroscience is also very popular. Within the School of Education, these are degrees for anyone who is looking to become a teacher or to further your educational career. So if you're looking to become a teacher in the US or back home, we can help you with one of our degrees here, which have lots of long names and can get a little bit confusing. So again, that's where we recommend making an appointment with someone on the team. And then within the business school, we offer several different MBA options. You can see in the middle here, these are all of the different MBA concentrations. So we have 18 different concentrations, including also a STEM MBA, which gives you the STEM designation if you'd like to extend your OPT or CPT. We also have 10 MS offerings, which are about 30 credits, including business analytics and marketing intelligence, which has several courses within AI. And then a lot of advanced certificates as well. Finally, I'm going to include our contact information here. So if you'd like to apply, the QR code is there. If you'd like to stay connected with us and follow us on social media, we're often doing Instagram live events. We're often doing giveaways. We're often highlighting specific programs and students. And that's a great way to hear more about the application process in St. John's in general, see what events are happening on campus. To follow us on Instagram is probably the busiest account that we have. And then, of course, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them right now, or you can always email us at gradhelp@stjohns.edu. Also, if you have any additional questions for Professor Sardi, he did need to leave, but I'd be happy to pass on any questions that you have for him as well. If you'd like to email them to me, either at gradhelp, or I can give you my email address directly. Okay, that's it for me. That was a pretty quick, short spiel. If you have any other questions about St. John's or the application process, I'd be happy to address them now.
All right. All right. Amber, there have been quite a lot of questions which have come in from students regarding the application process, scholarships, etc. One of the key questions which has come in from a couple of folks is that how can they get started with like what are the key components which admissions committee or the decision makers look into in a successful application? If you can share some tips as to how does the entire holistic review process goes to all the students.
Absolutely. So faculty are very involved in our decision-making process on the graduate level. Generally, as you said, it is a holistic application review. So we are looking at your application answers, your letters of recommendation, your essay, your resume, your transcripts, and your test scores, if they're required. I do tell students all the time that in terms of your letters of recommendation, that's a great opportunity to request something from someone who knows you really well. Oftentimes, I think that students think that having an impressive title or having someone of high stature fill out your letter of recommendation is more important than what they have to say about you, when in actuality, it's the opposite. We would much rather have someone be able to speak to your work ethic and your character and why they think you're a good fit for the degree in St. John's than someone with a great title who writes a letter that doesn't really express a great knowledge of you as a candidate. The other point that I often make is that your statement of goals in your essay is always read by the committee and is a great opportunity to showcase your passion for St. John's, for the degree, and why you think it's a great fit. One thing I will always mention is that oftentimes students use the same essay for different schools. Please make sure that if you are doing that, that you change the name of the school in your essay. We got 3 this week that had names of schools that were not St. John's. It happens all the time. And sometimes that is enough of a small mistake that faculty will say, oh, we need to reach out to the student, get a new essay, and then, of course, that can hold up your application process. So that's a little thing that I always recommend as well. And then the biggest recommendation is to make use of us. The admissions team is here to help you through the process. Sometimes we work with students for 4 years before they end up applying or enrolling at the university, and that's our job. Our job is to help you navigate this process, because we know that not only is it overwhelming for everyone, but especially for international students who are, traveling across the pond and making such a huge life decision. We do also, I forgot to mention, have an Office of International Student Services that works particularly with international students to help you get your visa and your I-20. So that's part of the application process as well. As soon as you apply, you're in touch with my office as well as ISSO so that we can work together to get you here for the term that you apply.
Thank you for that, Amber. Amber, there has been a specific question which has come up from one of the student, Miran. He's asking, as this has been a big election year in the United States and the new developments, how will the Trump administration and all the policies which come along with that affect Indian students in particular, as well as African students who are looking forward to studying a MS program in the United States?
Sure, that's a great question. It's something that we have been discussing for a year now. Now that we know the outcome of the election, obviously the good news is that we can look a little bit to what Trump did in his last administration to be a little bit more prepared for what that may look like. So we have been thinking about that, as well as what we can do to help our international students get here. So although it was predicted that we would see a stark decline in international students when Trump was elected the first time, that actually didn't happen. Some schools did see a decline, of course, but us in New York and with already having such a strong international population, we weren't so affected by that. And I think the ISSO office has really been integral in that, because we are aware that with any change in administration, of course, there can be delays in visa processing. So that's, of course, the biggest thing that we're worried about now, is making sure that we're staying on top of how long the appointments are and, you know, what that process looks like for our students. But as for now, unfortunately, I think a lot of the other stuff remains to be seen. So we are just paying as close attention to everything in the news as we can. And I think come February or March, we may have a better idea of what that will look like.
All right. Amber, I know we are about time by 15 minutes, but there have been a couple of questions which many of the students generally do think about before deciding on their graduate studies. So one of the questions which has come up, if you can highlight a bit more on the career services on offer, about the internships, career fairs, as well as job opportunities that students get post a graduate program at the United States. Along with that, one other question which I had received is, are there any leadership opportunities on campus at St. John's University? Does the university promote startup culture? Are there any startup incubators which help students? So, yeah.
Absolutely. So in terms of career services, all graduate students have a career advisor who they can work with that will help you with building your resume, tailoring your resume to specific industries. So if you're applying to different types of positions, they will work with you on that. We have software, actually AI software, that helps you prepare for your interviews. So the software will ask you different interview questions. You put in where you're applying to. They'll ask you specific questions about the company, provide feedback, and then you'll go over that with your career advisor as well to prep for those interviews. In terms of internships, we offer the traditional internships where, you know, for the semester or over the summer, you're working with a company. I will say that as of 2 years ago, the internship numbers have just skyrocketed. The job market in the US is better than it has been in decades right now. So we were even seeing some of our sophomore undergraduate students in the business school getting signing bonuses for their paid summer internships, you know, at 20 years old. So hasn't been a better time to get an internship. So if you want to stay here for the summer, a lot of our international students do that. They get an internship over the summer so they can gain that experience. And then we also have technology that allows you to participate in virtual internships with companies over the semester. So those can be as little as 5 hours, but it helps you work on different projects, get experience, and then be able to add that to your resume as well. In terms of the incubator, we have the VIC, which is our incubator on campus. They have entrepreneurs coming in every single week to talk about their experiences, to work with students, to give them mentorship. We have actually a student already who has started a finance app and has been working with the VIC that has now been launched and is working towards getting bought out already, which is really exciting. So certainly that is actually at the bottom of our a brand new business school that is actually right next to our analytics lab, which has 40 Bloomberg terminals, and students are trading in our MSF, the finance MS. They trade with a true scholarship fund that's a little over $4 million right now, and the money that we earn from that fund goes to student scholarships. So there's a lot of opportunity for experiential learning, for academic service learning. If you're interested in tax or accounting, we have VITA, which is the ability to work with community members to prepare their tax benefits. For students who maybe are interested in pharmacy, we do vaccine clinics so that pharmacy students can go and make sure that those in the community are vaccinated. Lots of different opportunities within the community, for sure. I don't know if I answered all the questions that you had. There was a few there.
You did cover all the questions.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much for that, Amber. Thank you so much for answering all the queries which students had, and thank you so much for staying up late answering all the questions from the students. For For all the students, if you are looking forward to studying an MBA or a business master's in the United States, in particularly cities like New York, then St. John's University, Peter J. Tobin College of Business is your place to be. Again, thank you so much, Amber. It was wonderful having you today. For all the students, we would be sharing all the details which Amber had shared with you all, along with the scholarship details with you shortly over an email, and hoping to see you all. Thank you so much, Amber. Have a lovely Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. You too, everybody. And don't forget, we're also offering the application fee waiver. So happy to offer that for everyone who attended today. Thank you so much for listening. It was great to talk to you all, and we hope to see you applying soon. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a good day.